with a lot of it is getting guys to trust that what their number one is and find their number one. And when I say their number one, I just mean the progression. And the thing is, you could call the same play 3 or 4 times in a row. That number one might change based on the coverage. So that is all like tied in together. It's finding the right number one, and then from there, it's based on the player. Like a guy like Justin Fields, especially where he's at now with where his offensive line is. And I actually think Luke Getsy did a decent job of this. I'm actually pretty optimistic about Luke Getsy and what he does, offense coordinator for the Bears, is there's one, your cover 2 here. Okay, now I'm going to throw the dig. One's not open. Okay, go run and create. And sometimes it's just, if you make a mistake fast. It's taking out some of the fat that can happen where you're trying to be too perfect. So I think when you always get to the right number one, that can get you to the right number 2. Sometimes that's the check down. Sometimes you have to move your eyes across the field. But knowing what quarterbacks can and can't handle really helps with that. I think Justin sometimes tries to be too perfect, and he's getting a little better at kind of trimming the fat. But for him, it's more like, hey, here's one. If one's not open, go, baby. go make a play. But if I'm teaching Justin Herbert, who reads the game differently at Justin Fields, he likes to check the ball down rather than scramble, I would make sure the plays are more conducive to that and say 1 to 2, okay, those aren't open, now you can scramble. But it's just a comfort level with the plays being called.
We know that Fields needs targets, and the Bears are fully aware of that. And I was interested to see that your most improved wide receiver happens to be a pending free agent in Jacoby Myers. And it leads me to think about not just how you identify the improvement, but as I hate to say finding the why, but the reason for the improvement. Why is somebody getting better? And that I want to apply this to Chase Claypool. And if these guys are getting better, because he'd be a perfect candidate based on your criteria for this list next year, or maybe it should have been this year, but he got traded. Maybe you give him a year because it took him a while to learn whatever 3 plays they gave him. But if Chase Claypool is going to be on this list, and do you think he can, and what would he have to do to make these kinds of improvements?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jacoby Myers, so I'm glad you gave him a little shout out there.
Yeah, he's going to be a rich man.
He is. He timed up his free agency perfect. I think he's going to be a good number 2 for somebody, but when you're the prettiest girl at the dance, it kind of helps a little bit with the free agency market. I think with Claypool, there's a misconception of what type of player he is. You look at him, he's 6'4", 230 pounds. You're like, oh, launch it deep. Let him go up and get it. He is more of a finesse receiver, and I mean this as a compliment. He's such a good athlete that he is more of you have to run the right stuff for him. It's not it's kind of a can't or won't situation. Is it because the coaches aren't calling that and they just don't have it in their playbook, or is it they're not calling it because they don't think you can do it? I think with Claypool is he needs a lot more horizontal stuff. A guy that maybe it's not the same position, but someone that gets used this way. If you look how Evan Ingram got used with the Jaguars this year, and he would have been a candidate for my most improved, but my criteria is, well, he already made a Pro Bowl, so it's kind of hard to be improved off a Pro Bowl. But Evan Ingram with the Giants, he runs a 4.45. He's a big athletic guy, and they kept using him on vertical stuff, goes and seams and run down the field. And then Doug Peterson said, I'm going to use you on crossing routes. I'm going to use you underneath. I'm going to use you on screens, catch the ball and run away from everybody, use that 4.4 speed. I think that's where Claypool should get used. A lot more crossers, a lot more digs, a lot of stuff where he's moving and catching on the run, because that's where his gifts shine the most. His breakout game as a rookie with the Steelers was he was getting jet sweeps and running the ball for touchdowns when he had that 3-touchdown game. That's how I think he should ideally be used, and that's where he is a plus player at.
When you're digging through all of this tape and trying to figure out, what players have made significant jumps, is there any connection that you can make between coaching staffs or coaching trees? Who are the best teachers of the game that are getting players from level B to level C or level C to level D?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. There's Doug Peterson is a pretty good one, because it's really knowing the personnel is where you see the right guys. Of course, Kyle Shanahan maximizes a lot what he gets. But he is such a unique coach and it's such a unique system. You see some defensive coaches that are very good at it. I think a Dan Quinn knows personnel very well and knows how to understand what he's doing, the defense coordinator for the Cowboys. He understood, hey, I got this Micah Parsons guy. Let's let him loose. Let's get him moving across the defensive line. It really is, to me, it's guys knowing what guys are, knowing what personnel is, and knowing what they can and can't do is when you see the improvement from the players. Like that's, again, I'll bring up Luke Getsy again. I think maybe I've seen some Bears frustrations with him, fans' frustrations. I've seen some positives with him. What Luke Getsy was really good at this year was, hey, our offensive line can't pass protect. We got some good backs, and we got a decent a quarterback that can move the ball a little bit, run the ball a little bit. Let's do a lot of boots. Let's do a lot of zone running that helps the offensive line. And you saw some guys Khalil Herbert have a nice year before he got hurt. It's just understanding personnel. I know that sounds like a broad swath statement, but that's really where you see guys improve in a system. Because I think a lot of older coaches especially were like, no, this is my system. You have to square peg, round hole it. I think it's a lot of coaches now are doing a good job of building the circle so it fits their players.
We've asked a lot of people about the center position. And I watched it more this year than I have in the past because just my viewer's eye got trained, and I'm spoiled with the amount of time that I watched Jason Kelce and his power, his speed, his discipline, the being able to throw multiple blocks on the same play to help and recover, to do next level moving stuff. And I'm just wondering, we've talked to draft experts who say you can find the second round or the third round where there's a lot of really good center prospects that come out of there. Can a great center be developed, and how long does it take?
Absolutely, they can be developed. I'll even bring up the example with my dad. Mike Tice, he brought Matt Burke, was a tackle, 6th-round tackle from Harvard or 5th-round tackle from Harvard. He developed him into a center by his second year. I think center play outside of left tackle play, center is the most important position on the offensive line, and sometimes the most important position. I think center has and I use kind of like a video game reference here, but like a boost effect on everybody around him. More quarterback, of course, has a boost effect on everybody.
Force multiplier.
Force multiplier, yes. Fantastic. That's exactly it. And because a center, especially for a guy like Justin Fields or younger quarterbacks, a veteran center, it's one of the best things they can have because it takes the load off protection-wise and the points and where they're going. And when a quarterback doesn't have to worry about it, most offenses have quarterbacks either set it or they have override ability and have to fix things. Sometimes they have to be like, oh, no, you're wrong. We're going here. But then you see some communicate. I think Dak Prescott and Tyler Biadasz with the Cowboys is a great example. It's kind of a nice partnership. It's really cool. It's like a pitcher and a catcher kind of going through what pitch they want to go. And I love those relationships. Those have such an effect on everybody else because it lets everybody on the offensive line go to the right spot. And if you're going to the right spot, that's half the battle. It really is. A lot of these guys are good athletes. You just got to get them going into the right area. So I think center is so incredibly important for an offense to be functional. And that's where you see a lot of leaps in offenses when they get a leap in center play. But you asked about development. Yes, you can. But I think a lot of it's mentally for centers. It's a lot on them. You have to be basically the second smartest guy on the whole team, to be a center outside the quarterback. And I think, yes, you can develop it, but it does take time. I think Tyler Biadasz, the name I just brought up from the Cowboys, is a great example. He was a 4th-round pick, I believe, from Wisconsin. And first couple of years, kind of okay, kind of replacement level center. And this year he got voted to a Pro Bowl. And I actually thought he did play really well this year. He actually deserved it outside of just kind of getting the Dallas boost for getting to the Pro Bowl. But no, you can definitely develop center play, but it does take a little bit of time because there's a lot to mentally learn the position. Another example, just personal experience, is John Feliciano, who's bounced around a little bit in the league. He was a left tackle at Miami, grew and developed into a center. And if you watched him with the Bills and now with the Giants, when he's on the field, the offensive line looked good, like how he did, because he was calming everybody down. When he was off the field, it was a mess. even how the Bills played this year, he was gone and couldn't play guard and help out Mitch Morse at center. So I think it's something you develop. It's a lot more of the mental side than the physical side.